First things first, what is a pressure canner? It is a means by which we can safely preserve low acid things such as vegetables and meats, which otherwise would be at risk of developing botulism. Pressure canning is a thing that can only safely and adequately be achieved using a pressure canner, not a cooker. You can cook in a canner, but you can't can in a cooker. So here is Sunny. This is my smaller pressure canner. This is a 12 quart, I believe, Presto pressure canner. It's the slightly older generation. So here we have the lid. You can see the inside of the airflow and the pressure lock, which is a little rubber plug that pops up when the pressure reaches the right pressure. We've got the rubber seal. Now this goes around the inside of the canner, like so, and then sits very nicely on top. When you put the lid on, most of them lock in place, as so, and you can lift it by the lid. My arm's probably in the way then. You can lift it by the lid without it coming off. It is very tightly fitted. There is no gap or leak around through that seal. This model, because it is a slightly older model, does not come with a locking mechanism, which my other one, my 23 quart, does have. So inside this, we also have a rack for the jars to sit on. So this is the little rack that sits in the bottom of the canner there. Just pop that in. When in use, we will then fill with 2 to 3 quarts of water or litres of water, whatever is called for your particular canner model. And some of them, there may be a line on the inside that lets you know where to fill it to before you put your jars in. One thing, especially in this area of the country, is we have very hard water, which means that if processed in the pressure canner, often there is a lot of lime scale built up on the outside of the jars. What I do to combat this is I pour in a little bit of white vinegar to the canner when I add the water, which stops the lime scale from forming on the jars themselves and makes them easier to clean and just a bit nicer. Here we have the Presto 23 quart canner. I'm storing it with the lid upside down so I don't put any pressure on the seal. I have a little bit of cardboard that I keep on top just so that when it's in storage, nothing comes into contact with either the gauge or the air pipe, which, as you can see on the top, this model has a lock feature, which when I pull out the seal, it's got, again, a rubber seal. It takes the same size seal as my 12 quart. It's a bit more clacky with the thing there. So when the seal is on, goes onto the canner, and then when the canner reaches pressure, this pops up and then won't come past the lid on the base, which means that you cannot accidentally take the lid off while it is under pressure. So it is much, much more safe than you would think. I know there are an intimidating prospect for a lot of people, the pressure canners, because you're dealing with pressure, but this is the safest and easiest way to go about it as a new canner. So this 23 is a dial gauge canner. It can also be used as a weighted gauge canner. Obviously it's got the same air pipe as the other one and it uses the same weights. So what I tend to do is I will just ignore the dial because I can't get it calibrated. I can't guarantee it's correct. It is correct because I can check it against the weight, but only because I know that. So what you can do if you're not sure if your dial is correctly calibrated is if you put the 10-pound weight on, or the 5 or the 15, you bring your canner up to pressure, and when that weight starts jiggling, you are at that pressure. So this is the Presto 23. As you can see, it's a lot bigger than the 16. It's quite wide, which is good. A useful feature these have also is the overpressure plug. Now what happens is, if your canner is raising the pressure too high, what will happen is that plug will blow out. It's a little rubber plug, and the canner will vent itself, so it will not be able to come up to a dangerous pressure, because that pressure will be able to be released through the vent holes. And obviously then you would know anyway to turn the heat off, which will reduce the pressure over time.